Since the involvement of NASCAR superstars Dale Earnhardt Jr., Kevin Harvick, Jeff Burton, and Justin Marks, the notoriety of the Cars Tour and its competitors has skyrocketed. The racing speaks for itself because it's true, grassroots, hard-nosed late model racing at its best. And we're here to bring that action to light. This is On Tour. Welcome back to On Tour. My name is Buddy Pooley, co-host of the Big Motor Small Blade podcast, joined, of course, by FrontStretch.com's lead Cars Tour reporter, Chase Folsom, whereas, of course, we know him on this channel as Chuck. We want to forgive Chuck this week. He's feeling a little bit under the weather, so I'm gonna try to carry us through this episode. Good to be back. We missed all of you. I hope you guys are ready for a great episode of On Tour from Ace Speedway. Chuck, neither one of us have been to Ace Speedway before, but we did watch an awesome race this past Friday night. What do you got to say about the bull ring out in what's the city called?
That would be Ultima Hall, North Carolina. So
Ultima
Hall. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing that. That's how they said it on the broadcast. And like Buddy said, if I start hysterically coughing, I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Almost did there. Yeah, it's a cool racetrack from what I've seen. I'm excited to go there in August. To me, watching it kind of drives for a late model stock, or it seems like it drives for a late model stock, how Martinsville is for a cup car, if that makes sense. Not long fast straightaways, but long enough straightaways to where you carry a lot of momentum into the corner because it's really hard on brakes.
Mm-hmm.
So they get a couple guys. Bobby McCarty actually burned through his shoes because of how hot the brakes got.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
it kind of the heavy on the brakes, long straightaways kind of seems like how Martinsville is for a cup car. So I'm excited to watch it in person.
Well, I was watching it, and you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Richmond Fairgrounds before they made it into a D-shaped oval. It reminds me of you watch the famous Darrell Waltrip, Dale Earnhardt wreck from 86, 87, I believe. It reminds me of the old Richmond Fairgrounds there. And also one note on Bobby McCarty, it wouldn't be a party without a little bit of fire, right? Living up to the name of Bobby McCarty, the one-man party. Connor Hall came into the race as the points leader. He had quite the night. He got a little dust up there with Ronnie Bassett Jr. and Brent Cruz. Ran in the back of him and then ended up spinning out later in the race. He does remain the points leader over Bobby McCarty and Carson Kvapil.
Yeah, Carson Kvapil is inevitable for those of you that don't know. The top, I'm going to double check here. I believe it's the top 8 in the standings. Top 8 are all separated by 19 points.
Wow.
So we still have one hell of a championship battle right now in the Cars Tour. And there's some guys outside it like Chad McCumbee, Deke McCaskill that could easily be in this with a couple good races. So
yeah,
still a lot to play for a lot of guys.
Yeah, I mean, Deke obviously had the issues at the issues at Orange County, and then Chad McCumbee has had his fair share of issues this year as well with some good runs going. So, I mean, look out for those two. Let's check out the results from Ace Speedway. Taking a look at the results for the ZMAX Cars Tour Accelerated Graphics 285 from Ace Speedway, it was Carson Kvapil continuing the momentum and scoring his second victory of the season over Brendan Butterbean Queen and Ryan Millington, who finished second and third. Ryan led 100 laps on the night. Bobby McCarty comes home 4th, Chad McCumbee in 5th, Ronnie Bassett Jr. in 6th, Trayton Lapsovich comes home 7th, Isabella Robusto rebounds from a hard crash at Orange County Speedway to finish 8th, Minnie Tyrell in 9th, and Jacob Hefner rounds out your top 10. Brandon Pierce finishes 11th, Connor Hall, after several incidents, remains the Cars Tour points leader and finishes 12th. Brandon Jones, making his first of 3 starts on the season, finishes 13th. Kaden Honeycutt rebounds from a spin to finish 14th. Brent Cruz finishes 15th after a dust-up with Ronnie Bassett and Connor Hall. Deke McCaskill comes home 16th, and Landon Huffman finally has an uneventful night. He finishes 17th. Landon Lewis in the KHI 62 finishes 18th, Andrew Grady in 19th, and Mason Diaz rounds out your top 20. Cade Brown finishes 21st. Dylan Ward, fast in practice, unfortunate result. He'll finish 22nd. Buddy Alves Jr. finishes 23rd. And Dylan Harville had several cut down tires. He ends up finishing 24th, shotgun on the field. Ryan Millington was having the best run of his season, leading much of the early portions of this race, but unfortunately hit something on the racetrack and bent up the front valence of that 15 car and put a chink in the armor there. He developed a hellacious push after that, and he fell into the clutches of Butterbean and Carson Kvapil, and it was only a matter of time before the damage would be too much, and Carson Kvapil would take the lead. Him and Butterbean had a heck of a battle for second, and Butterbean highlighted that battle in an interview we got with him. Here it is.
I think we kind of played the race smart at the beginning. You know, we rode second, kind of took care of our stuff and attacked when we could and then saved when we could. But I think probably our shot to get the lead went wrong was the 15 ran us in the fence off of 2. He tried to do it one time and I kept it off the wall. The second time he ran me right rear, right in the fence. And so that sucked. That kind of broke my momentum and allowed the 8 to get by. And 8 was really good, but it could have been a different story if I could have had clean air and been able to hold him behind me like earlier in the race, or it would have just been a really good race. But congratulations to those guys; they were hooked up.
You heard there, Butterbean was rather critical of Ryan Millington, stating that he tried to run him in the wall and then eventually accomplished that feat, and he felt like that cost him a shot at the win. Chuck, what did you think of the battle there, and do you think there was any reason for the critical comments from Butterbean?
I mean, I definitely think there's a reason. I think he's right in being upset, but I think it more stems from the frustration of they're 6th in points right now, which to some people isn't bad, but that team expects to be top 3 winning races fighting for the championship, and right now they're not doing it. They're still winless, and he felt like he had a shot to break through and get a win, and accidentally gets put in the wall by a guy who's missing half the left front of his car, which obviously if he'd seen the left front of the 15 car, I think in the moment his opinion probably would have been a little different. So I think it's more the frustration of, wanting to turn your season around and then getting raced hard by a guy and you don't know what the other circumstances are. You just see he just put you in the wall.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think Ryan had any ill intent. He was just trying to hang on to the race car and hang on to the spot because he was having his best run of the season too. So it's just a racing deal, and everybody gets a little upset at a racing deal every now and then, but we're all friends the next day. So I think he had a right to be upset, but it'll blow over just fine.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, I mean, Ryan's just trying to hang on, especially there. I mean, they're fighting for second. You never know what could happen up in front of you. So, I mean, damage or not, you're still you gotta fight as hard as you can when you're up in the thick of the battle for a podium spot there. Carson Kvapil did end up winning the race over Butterbean and Ryan Millington. We'll talk about Carson after the break. Let's get a word from FrontStretch.com. FrontStretch.com is where you'll find all your racing content in one place for free. They have it all from NASCAR to F1 to IndyCar, grassroots racing, and even iRacing. Front Stretch has you covered with daily news for every series, weekly columns, and even on-site coverage at every NASCAR and Cars Tour event. Head over to FrontStretch.com, subscribe to their YouTube page, and give them a follow on X to get your daily fix on all things motorsports. As always, we want to thank FrontStretch.com for letting us use the interviews they get from the Cars Tour, and also letting Chuck go and get those interviews for us. Most weeks, they had our friend Anthony getting the interviews for them since Chuck and I were both absent, so we greatly appreciate that. Carson Kvapil, he may not be a qualifier, but he's damn sure a closer. He wins his 3rd race in a row at Ace Speedway. And if you listen to the crowd, they get louder and louder and louder every week. And I think it's because we're so proud of what he's doing, not only in the Cars Tour, but also in NASCAR running the Xfinity Series 2. He swept Ace last year. He's going for 4 in a row in August. Chuck, Carson Kvapil, what is there more to say about him?
Like I said earlier, Carson Kvapil is inevitable. He's really good, and everybody associated in the car store is known for a while he's really good, and now he's showing the world that. And it's almost like a proud moment kind of thing when you see one of your car store guys go out there and bring it to the Xfinity guys. And now we can say Martinsville wasn't a fluke because he dang near won Dover. And that was a track at Martinsville. Nobody really said this, but you could say, oh, well, he has laps around there. He didn't have any laps around Dover until he hopped in the ARCA car fighting. So he's just talented. And obviously, he's announced he's going to be in the car 6 more times this year, and he's got a sponsor for that JR Motorsports deal now. He'll be at Darlington this coming weekend. The next time we'll see him. I called Loudon, by the way. I'll take credit for that. I spelled it wrong on Twitter. But he gave me a hard time for that. But yeah, it's just exciting to see a guy like Carson getting a shot, just like Josh Berry did a couple years ago.
Yeah, and obviously, the win at Ace, I mean, it is just momentum building for Carson. It's his second win of the season, and he's creeping back in on the points lead, even missing a race earlier in the season. We did catch up with Carson, so let's hear from our race winner.
I messed up in qualifying, kind of put us in a hole, and just didn't really have the speed I was wanting to have there at the beginning of the race. Was a little worried, to be honest, and it just seemed like as the tires wore down a little bit, everyone else kind of fell off a little bit. We really didn't fall off none. I felt like our car really kind of took off at the end of the race, and we just had a lot of good tire there at the end.
What is it about this track that clicks for you?
I honestly don't know, really. I came here in 2022, first year with these guys, and ran 4th. We were all right. It was a mediocre race for us. And 2023 rolled around. It's just, man, we were lights out both races, and just kind of carried it over, the same setup and stuff like that. And we just have really good speed here. I don't really know what it is. I don't really love this place. I don't hate it by any means. So I just feel like these guys bring a really good car to the track at this race, and just know what we need to run. But Brian and the guys had this thing on rails tonight there at the end of the race. Just felt like we were gaining speed as the laps kicked off, and everyone else was kind of losing them. So just had a really good car there.
Not only did Carson Kvapil win, his brother Kaden won the pro late model race. So it was a Kvapil brothers sweep at Ace Speedway. Chuck, you mentioned the Dover Xfinity race that Carson had a 2nd place finish in. I was at Dover watching it live, and let me tell you, I got pretty darn excited in the grandstands watching that. It filled me with a lot of joy and made me so proud watching him up there. I mean, he showed an incredible amount of racecraft, and really, I mean, honestly took him to school. I mean, it's funny because I watched Ace Speedway and watched him, kind of lay back and let Butterbean and Ryan Millington battle it out and almost, move themselves out of his way. And it gave me flashbacks to Dover because he did much of the same thing there with Austin Hill and I forget who, Sheldon Creed. And he's proving that he belongs, and not only that he belongs, but everybody else that's in the Cars Tour can also go up into the upper echelon of NASCAR and do the same thing, which is why he's getting 6 more races, as you mentioned earlier. It starts with this weekend at Darlington. He's going to run Loudon. He'll run Indianapolis, Michigan, the 2nd Darlington race, and Talladega in the JR Motorsports 88. Chuck, where do you think Carson's going to excel in the next 6 races in that Xfinity car?
So I think the cheap and easy answer is to say Loudon, right? Because it runs like a short track. If you want to consider it a short track, I guess you could. I don't, but I think a sleeper on that list is actually Michigan. There's something about it. Just There's something about Michigan that to me would present itself in a way that Dover does, and it's very line sensitive.
Mhm.
It's easy to miss your line, and you have to be exact to maintain momentum, get good runs off the corner, and he's good at that. That's right in his wheelhouse, is running the same lap every single lap. I feel like, excuse me, I feel like Indy is probably going to be the biggest struggle. Um, that's just a whole different beast.
Yeah.
And I mean, Darlington in itself is, but him running there twice, especially, and I feel like that's kind of in his wheelhouse too. But I'm actually going to say Michigan.
Michigan, yeah. Josh Berry actually happened to do pretty well in his first start at Michigan, and I keep mentioning Josh Berry, but I feel like it's a very good comparison. I think Darlington is going to be interesting. I think that to me is going to be the one that I think he honestly, I mean, with the way JRM runs there and the way it fits into his wheelhouse, I think he's got just as good a shot of winning there. I mean, there's some similarities to Dover. It's a high banked, oval, obviously, but it's a big tire wear game. And I mean, if anyone's gonna be good at that, it's gonna be one of these late model stock guys. So I'm looking forward to Darlington. If not the first go around, the second go around, I expect big things out of Carson. I think Indy's gonna be interesting for sure. And then if he can survive Talladega for sure. Yeah.
That's the whole name of the game. There is don't get wrecked.
Exactly. Yeah. Another late model stock star that had a great run in NASCAR this past weekend. It was Kaden Honeycutt, who nearly won the Craftsman Truck Series race at Kansas. He was in the Nice Motorsports number 45. Fortunately, had a bad pit stop there and kind of cost him a shot at it there. But very proud of Kaden and what he's doing over there. He's had a couple sleeper runs in the truck, and he's proven he belongs. And like I said earlier, I mean, they continue, him and Carson continue to make a case for these late model guys, and especially with the looming charter deals in the Cup Series. If it goes the way of the teams, it's only going to play into the hands of these late model stock guys, because the teams can go out and hire these drivers who are talented and maybe don't have the funding behind them. Another one that obviously, if you mention going into NASCAR, it's going to be Butterbean. He's making his debut in the Craftsman Truck Series next weekend at Wilkesboro. We were able to talk to Butterbean about that at Ace. Here's what he had to say.
It's just going to be a very special week. I'm going to try to soak it in. I always told myself every win I've tried to soak in longer and longer, because you never know when it'll happen again. And moments like that and moments like what this Wilkesboro is going to mean to me are going to be very special. You only make your debut once in the upper series, so a lot of nerves are going to be going on. Obviously, I'll be ready to go defend our Window World 125 title with this LPP group on Wednesday, but after Wednesday, it's going to be a whole new ball game for me, and I've been working hard with the boys at Tricon and be back in the sim this week with TRD, so I'm doing all I can on my end and pit stop practice, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
I think we all have some high hopes for Butterbean going into his Truck Series debut, and I think he might have a bit of an advantage, him running on the new track service on Wednesday in the Cars Tour that the truck guys might not have. So that would be great. And going into Wilkesboro, Chuck, we got a stacked field. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so we're still not 100% sure of who exactly is in this field. But just to let you guys in on something you may not know, the past 2 years, the Wilkesboro Cars Tour event has actually been invite only. So everybody that showed up was per invite from the series.
Okay.
That is not the case this year. It is open to whoever shows up with a race car.
Okay.
So in theory, I don't know how many of the NASCAR guys will try and run, but you should have a lot more local guys show up and try to make the field. They're going to start 38, I believe it is. So
Wow. Okay.
it's going to be a tough field to make if they have as many cars as I think they will.
Mm-hmm.
Peyton
How many are you thinking?
I'm thinking probably 50.
Wow. All right.
I mean, Peyton Sellers was at the test, so that's a big name in the late model world. You don't usually see in car show race. Some NASCAR guys, we know Sammy Smith's running.
Yeah.
Brandon Jones is running. The expectation is that Josh Berry will be in the 62. You and I were talking about that earlier because Lane Riggs announced he is running for Tom Urshey Racing in the 00 car. So that leaves 62 open. Now, should we see any like Ross Chastain, Chase Briscoe, Brad Keselowski like we did last year? I hope so. I don't know yet. That would just add to the field. It'd be awesome to see. It's going to be interesting to see how everybody adapts to the new surface because they were running blistering lap times around there in the test. It was fast.
Scary quick.
Yeah. So it's going to be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, and I do want to give a quick shout out. Dylan Wilson, hometown boy, will make his debut on the season at Wilkesboro. And you mentioned the fast speeds. So it's going to be, especially qualifying, if it's as stacked of a field as we think it's going to be, you're going to have to put your nuts on the dash and really get after it for sure. All right, it's that time of the show again. Chuck's question of the week. Chuck, what do you have for me?
So I feel like this ties in well with what all we've talked about this episode. Obviously, Kaden Honeycutt, Carson Kvapil, soon to be Brendan Queen, all making their NASCAR presence known. Lane Riggs this year as well in the front row 38 truck. So, not including those four.
Okay.
Who from the Cars Tour field would you like to see make their NASCAR debut next?
Let's see. That's a good question. You know, the obvious answer, I feel like it's a kind of a softball answer is Brent Cruz. But you know, he's obviously gonna be making some NASCAR starts with somebody this year. So I'll try to give you a different answer here. You know, that is tough. I almost want to say Landon Huffman because he's got, you know, a big fan base behind him, and I feel like that would be a lot of publicity, and it would be a good shot for him and maybe a shot in the arm for him on the season. But I think Bobby McCarty, if anyone, deserves it for sure. I mean, you see he's up front every week. He's one of those guys that's up there with Carson. He's up there with Butterbean and Kaden Honeycutt. I think Bobby McCarty definitely deserves a shot. I think Connor Hall, obviously that could be he's gonna be one of those guys. He's gonna eventually be in NASCAR. Bobby McCarty, I think, is one of those late model standouts that, you know, unless, you know, kind of gone out on a limb for, might not get that opportunity. So I'm gonna go with him.
Yeah. In short, that's who my answer was gonna be. He's kind of, I guess, the best comp for him is he's the late model stock car version of Bubba Pollard.
Yes, exactly.
So I would love for. Yeah, I mean, and him and I have talked about it. He's not like loaded with money. He just goes out and races.
Yeah.
And just gets by with it. So I would love for Dale Jr. for 1 week to be like, you know what, Bobby, let's go to I guess Martinsville would probably be good for him.
Yeah.
That would be cool to see.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned guys moving up into the upper echelon of NASCAR. Corey Day. I don't know about you, Chuck. You have your ear to ground more than I do. I had never heard of this dude, and all I see on my timeline is him winning this damn race at Hickory in a junior motorsports car. I'm like, who is this guy? So who is Corey Day?
So I had to wear the sprint car shirt. because I
Okay.
knew I was going to talk about this. I'm not even going to use my words. Kyle Larson says Corey Day is better than Kyle Larson.
Oh,
So
okay.
he's 18 years old. He already has 3 high limit sprint car wins this year. Won a World of Outlaws race last year. And this is his first time as a national touring driver. Like, he is really good.
Yeah.
And no big deal was made about it. It was Dale Jr. tweeted at about 8 o'clock. I guess it'd be not, I think it was last Saturday night.
Yeah.
May have been the one before. Either way, it doesn't matter. Dale Jr. tweeted at like 8 o'clock that night and was like, by the way, there's a junior motorsports car at Hickory and Corey Day's running it. And I was like, oh, let's see how this turns out. And about 2 hours later, I see Corey Day wins at Hickory. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Like, he's been talked about in the sprint car ranks as the guy that's going to make the NASCAR jump. Well, then he gets out in Victory Lane and he's got a JRM fire suit on, stitched with his name already. So that tells me this isn't a one-off, and I got to thinking about that announcement Dale Jr. said was coming about the July 3rd race at Caraway, and I got to looking at the sprint car schedules, and I'll have you know that both High Limit and the Outlaws are off for a 2-week period of time during that time. So
Doing some espionage work over there, Chuck, huh?
if you want to hear more about the possibilities of that, go check out my article that'll be live on Front Stretch Friday morning, because that's what I'm writing about this week. And I think Corey Day could very well be the guy running that junior motorsports car.
All right. Yeah, I mean, a plain white 88 just came out of nowhere at Hickory and whooped up on him, and just as unassuming as can be. And apparently he's the next big thing. All right. Good to know. Wow. The Kyle Larson says he's the next Kyle Larson. That's, I mean, I stand by the statement that Kyle Larson is the greatest race car driver in the world. So I don't know what that says about Corey Day, but we'll let you guys decide that.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's all we got for this week of On Tour. We obviously have a big week coming with North Wilkesboro. Chuck will be there. I will be there. So if you guys are at North Wilkesboro and want to say hello, please say hello. Feel free to DM us at Big Motor Small Blade. And we'd love to meet some of you guys at one of the most prestigious late model stock races of the year. Yeah. Any last words, Chuck? You're coughing. I'll let you go. We'll see you next week, guys.